Hello and welcome back to the Nine Sports Podcast. My name is Kathleen and I host the weekly soccer edition of our show. And the NWSL may be on break for the Men's World Cup right now, but clubs are still making moves, and today was a huge day. I'm glad that I waited till today to record and even a little later this afternoon to record because they snuck in some crazy news right before I jumped in the studio. So we will start with a big report out of Gotham. Then we will check in with Angel City, who prompted a mid-afternoon call from my best friend to ask, what are they thinking? Then we'll take a look at some other big transactions before I let you go. And we'll just jump right in. Our top story of the week, or our number one at the 9, the New York Times is reporting that Sam Kerr will sign with Gotham FC. She just finished her 6th season with Chelsea in the WSL. And this would be a return not only to the NWSL for the former MVP and Golden Boot winner, but a return to the same franchise as well, as she won both of those awards at Sky Blue FC, which has now become Gotham. She also played briefly with Chicago during her stint here, but obviously jumped overseas and has just absolutely dominated the game in the WSL the last several seasons. And I think this will be a really fun development in the second half of the season to have Kerr back in the league and another Mewis back in the States. Also, we get Baby Jagger as well, who is a star in his own right. But she is such a dynamic player, a huge global star. And I think it's going to be really interesting how she pieces into Gotham's title defense campaign. There are some familiar faces from when she has played on both Sky Blue FC or other teams. And so she should slot in pretty well. I mean, you have to imagine that this has been in the works for a little while, but kept very well under wraps, at least to my knowledge. The leading rumors that I had heard all had her linked to Boston, or at least that was some really hopeful fans. But I like this move. It's an aggressive move by Gotham, but I think if you have the chance to sign Sam Kerr, you obviously sign Sam Kerr. Again, just such a dominant and dynamic talent, and I cannot wait to see what she's able to add to that already really, really powerful lineup. And we'll talk a little bit more about the move that made that space for her later in the show, but I do want to jump over across the country to Angel City, who elected to part ways with Coach Alex Strauss today. They started the season 3-0 and really looked strong, but have fallen to 12th with a 4-6-1 record. In a statement, sporting director Mark Parsons said, Alex brought real energy and passion to Angel City, developing our style of play and overseeing the important development of our players. He guided one of the youngest rosters in NWSL history through a pivotal period of growth. We are deeply grateful for Alex's leadership and the progress made during his tenure, and we wish him nothing but success in his next chapter. This was surprising, not just because of that kind of hot start. I think we all had maybe higher expectations for this team, but figured they would figure something out here in the second half, or almost 2/3 if you look at it from a number of games perspective. But also because he's only been there a little over a year, this will give them their 4th new coach, I believe, since 2022, which is not a lot of patience in your staff, but he came here last June after finishing the season with the Bayern Munich women. They had won back-to-back Bundesliga titles, and they kind of lived through the rest of that regular season, then lost Kristen Press and Ali Riley to retirement. They made a couple of big additions in the offseason, adding Ari Borges and Emily Sams, but lost Macy Hodge. And then Hina Sugita went on SEI with an ACL injury, and Alyssa Thompson, who jumped over to play with Chelsea. Obviously a huge loss there, but a lot of star power still on that roster, a lot of young talent, as Parsons said, and just a huge adjustment period. And so I expected them to maybe keep him around a little longer. But with the timing of this move, you have to imagine that this was already kind of in the works and they maybe have somebody in mind. Otherwise, I would have expected to see this kind of right at the beginning of the break or closer to the end of the break. And then kind of a whirlwind announcement bringing in the new coach. But for now, it does look like one of his assistants will be taking over until they make that official announcement. Again, they came in, won those first three, scored 9 goals across the first 3 matches. And then they lost 4 in a row. 3 of those were at home, which seemed, maybe especially concerning. Came back to draw Portland in that rematch. Defeated the Current, but it looks like those last 2 losses maybe kind of ended his tenure here. They do have 2 weeks until the season picks back up. They'll play Orlando on July 3rd, but not a lot of time to adjust. So we'll see, kind of what energy they bring out of the break, see whether they make any big player announcements, one of them already happening today, when they did trade midfielder Kennedy Fuller and an international roster spot to Bay FC, which came as a big surprise to me. I would think that they maybe have some other things in the works. But having both of those announcements came out today was also just kind of reeling. They received $500,000 in intra-league transfer funds and a $20,000 allocation fund as well. So I would think, just based on kind of history of the league, they flip that money pretty quickly for maybe another midfielder, maybe somebody a little more experienced to bring, again, somebody a little more tenured into that roster maybe. But I think part of what makes it so surprising with Fuller is that she just seems like she has a really high ceiling. She's still so young. She joined the league in 24 using that U18 entry mechanism and became Angel City's second youngest player at the time she joined. She just played her 50th match back in April and has 2 goals and 2 assists for the team this year, which puts her right at the top. And so, losing a foundational player like that, it does feel like they're going to have to bring in somebody flashy, if you will. And especially with her performances with the U.S. national team as well. She's kind of a rising star in that system. She's been playing with the U20 squad most recently. But deservedly, Bay is pretty excited about what they've gotten here. Coach Emma Coates, in their press release, said Kennedy is an exciting player and a fantastic addition. She is a superb young talent who possesses lots of NWSL experience. Her creativity and quality on the ball make her a joy to watch and will add to our attack. What is most exciting is the room she has to continue developing, and I believe she has a very bright future ahead of her at Bay FC. And I always think it's interesting to see what players say after a move like this, especially one that kind of surprises people on the outside. And of course, some of it could be media trained, but she definitely leaned into that development angle as well, which kind of reminded me of what Claire Hutton said when she made the move over to Bay. And so it seems like, at least on the player level, they are getting a lot of respect for this kind of development environment that they're creating, the ability to take those young players kind of to the next step. And so her quote in that release read, "From my conversations with Emma and the staff, it was clear that this is an environment where players are challenged to grow and reach their potential. I'm looking forward to learning from my teammates, connecting with the fans, and doing everything I can do to help, or everything I can to help the team compete for championships." So hopefully this is a move that helps her grow and reach that potential. Again, some very similar language I feel like that we've heard from some of the other players who have joined there. Claire Hutton, Alex Pfeiffer, a very young squad there, but so talented and so quick and surprising. I think both of those have just had incredible highlight reel goals this year. And just also look like they're having a lot of fun, which is, I think is, maybe an underrated thing that we don't get to talk about as much in sports sometimes, is that these younger teams sometimes are playing with a little bit less pressure. Emma seems to have created an environment where these young players do want to go. They do believe that they can kind of reach that next level. And, if she's been trusted by Emma Hayes to help develop, maybe some of these national team talents as well, that's obviously a huge testament to what they're doing out there. So when they come back, Bay is just below Angel City in the standings at 13th. They have a 3-6-2 record, but are making the future look really scary. And we'll see if they're able to compete towards the end of this year. But if not, you have to think they just come out absolutely guns blazing to start next year with a little bit extra time under all three of those players, as well as the rest of this relatively young group that they are putting out on the pitch. Boston also made a big move today, trading for Gotham defender Lilly Reale, the 2025 NWSL champion, as a Boston native, so this makes a lot of sense for her, and is one of the best young defenders in the country. So I was excited to see her get a lengthy contract, shows a lot of trust in her, shows their excitement in bringing her on as kind of a foundational piece for this franchise. She played every match for Gotham during their championship campaign last year and earned 9 caps for the U.S. Women's National Team. She was the NWSL Rookie of the Year, U.S. Soccer Young Female Player of the Year, and so she's just a huge get for Boston. They acquired her for $350,000 in allocation money and $50,000 in intra-league transfer funds. Obviously, Gotham used a lot of that, or will use a lot of that, to sign Sam Kerr to whatever contract we might expect in the next several days, which I'm assuming will be mind-boggling, given the other recent trends in contracts. But I really like this move for Boston. It feels like they're finally kind of getting their footing in the league. Dacia Smith wrote a great piece for us about how they're adjusting not only to life as an expansion franchise, but also this kind of awkward midseason move away from Gillette Stadium as they host the Men's World Cup. But really seems like they're making the most of it, trying to kind of reach a new fan base, expand their presence there in the Boston area. So I'm excited to watch Lilly grow and compete in that system. I hope to see her back with the national team soon. Lots of talented defenders in that group, but it does feel like she's right on the cusp of becoming a long-standing fixture, like maybe a Becky Sauerbrunn type on that back line. In other free agency news, Manchester City is continuing to break hearts, signing Bunny Shaw to a new contract extension and getting Beth Mead to make the switch over. So congrats to our guy Tom Baum and the rest of the crew over at Shades of Blue Network on the team setting up for another deep run and maybe a title defense in the WSL. And speaking of Shades of Blue, they are hosting watch parties throughout the Men's World Cup. So if you want a little company, or you're just tired of the announcers and need a different perspective, join one of their streams. They are having a lot of fun on YouTube and Twitch. I hopped on for a match earlier this week, and it's just such a great, knowledgeable group. I feel like I learn so much every time I talk to them. And I don't know a lot of people who are able to just chat away during the day and watch these games with me. So it's been a great addition to have those chats, and I will try to hop on a couple more this week. So come and join us. That is it for today's show. Thank you for joining. Make sure you tune in throughout the week for more shows from the 9 Sports podcast, including Maya talking about hockey, Howard and Jackie covering the WNBA, and our new duo of Melissa and Michael talking about college basketball. Hockey should be especially interesting this week with the PWHL draft coming tonight, so you will definitely want to hear what Maya has to say about that. And also check out Women's Sports Daily. It's your 5-minute morning show covering the latest headlines and talking points across women's sports. It is on a separate feed, but you should be able to find it wherever you listen to your podcasts. See you next time.